Welcome to the Network Plus Prepcast, your dedicated audio companion for mastering every objective on the CompTIA Network Plus certification exam. This series is produced by baremetalcyber.com. In episode 138, we begin exploring the domain that defines how to protect and defend the infrastructure that keeps modern organizations running. Network security is not just about firewalls and passwords. It's a structured discipline that covers physical safeguards, logical protections, attack detection, and policy enforcement. This domain forms the backbone of any effective IT security strategy and is one of the most exam-critical areas for Network Plus candidates. Domain 4 is where the exam transitions from performance and availability into defense and risk mitigation. Domain 4 addresses the essential question, how do we keep networks secure? To answer that, this domain dives into the techniques, tools, policies, and architectures that help identify and prevent threats. From understanding the principles of layered defense to identifying different types of attacks, this portion of the exam builds a complete picture of network defense. For learners preparing for Network Plus certification, mastering the content in Domain 4 will not only help you pass the exam, it will prepare you to protect real-world infrastructure against an evolving threat landscape. Network security in the context of this domain includes a broad range of topics. It begins with physical protections like locked server rooms and camera surveillance, and expands into logical defenses such as access control lists, firewalls, encryption, and authentication systems. Domain 4 also covers threat detection methods, policy enforcement strategies, and response mechanisms. It bridges the gap between theory and implementation, covering both what needs to be secured and how that protection is applied. On the exam, you'll see these topics woven into scenarios that test your ability to design and defend a secure environment. Security is crucial in every network because networks are constantly under threat, whether from external hackers probing for weak points or internal mistakes that expose data. Vulnerabilities are always present. A breach can compromise confidentiality, corrupt data integrity, or make systems unavailable, impacting all three elements of the CIA triad. These failures can lead to financial loss, reputational damage, and regulatory penalties. The exam will challenge you to think critically about how to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of systems under pressure. The exam places special emphasis on fundamental security principles. You'll need to understand the CIA triad and how it shapes every aspect of network design. You also need to know the concept of defense in depth, deploying multiple layers of protection so that a single failure doesn't compromise the whole system. Attack recognition is also important. Domain 4 includes coverage of common attack types and asks you to identify how they work and how to stop them. The exam frequently tests your ability to apply the right defensive measure to a given threat. This domain also ties into all previous domains. Security is not an isolated layer. It integrates with network operations, system deployment, change management, and documentation. In many cases, the tools and practices covered in earlier domains are re-examined through the lens of security. For example, configuration backups must be stored securely. Device settings must prevent unauthorized access, and monitoring tools must detect suspicious activity. On the exam, you'll often see cross-domain questions, where security practices must be applied to technical or operational tasks. Policies and access control play a foundational role in network security. These define who is allowed to access what and under what circumstances. Access control includes authentication, verifying identity, and authorization, defining what that identity is allowed to do. Policies might enforce password rules, restrict access to specific times a day, or require multi-factor authentication. Properly designed access control systems reduce risk by ensuring only the right people have the right level of access. The exam often asks you to interpret access control policies and select the appropriate authentication method. A wide variety of technologies support network security. Firewalls are used to control which traffic enters and exits a network. Access control lists, or ACMLs, are used on routers and switches to permit or deny specific traffic types. Intrusion detection and prevention systems, or IDS and IPS, analyze traffic for threats and take automated actions. Security information and event management platforms, or SIEM systems, collect log data and detect anomalies. Encryption and authentication services protect data and validate identities. These technologies form the tools used to implement security policies. The exam expects you to identify the right tool for each type of threat or network segment. A wide range of threats are covered in Domain 4. These include malware, such as viruses and worms, social engineering attacks like phishing, and spoofing attacks that forge IP or MAC addresses. Denial of service attacks flood services with traffic, while insider threats may come from users with too much access. Domain 4 also includes threats at the protocol level, like ARP spoofing, and physical threats like device tampering. Each threat type is accompanied by one or more mitigation techniques. On the exam, you'll be expected to match threats to both descriptions and defensive strategies. Implementation and hardening practices are also emphasized. This includes configuring secure defaults on devices, applying patches promptly, disabling unused ports, and enforcing role-based access. Network devices should be locked down using command line settings, management plane protections, and administrative controls. Interfaces should be configured to limit unauthorized access. Security hardening is a practical task, and the exam includes command-based and scenario-based questions that ask how to protect devices from misuse or attack. Finally, Domain 4 explores operational security practices. These include log review, configuration backup, real-time monitoring, and formal security procedures. Separation of deities, ensuring no single user has too much control, is a core concept. Organizations must also enforce security policies in writing, communicate them effectively, and revisit them periodically. Policies support accountability and consistency. The exam often tests your understanding of how these operational practices prevent insider threats, misconfiguration, and unauthorized actions. For more cyber content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. A key skill in Domain 4 is building awareness of how attackers operate. Security professionals need to understand common attack patterns so they can recognize warning signs early. This includes observing network behavior, spotting anomalies, and identifying actions that indicate reconnaissance, exploitation, or lateral movement. Awareness also involves staying updated on the latest attack techniques such as zero-day vulnerabilities or advanced persistent threats. Improving this readiness is the first line of defense. On the exam, expect to be tested on your ability to identify symptoms of compromise and recognize early indicators of attack activity. Network design itself plays a major role in strengthening security posture. The division of networks into isolated sections reduces the blast radius of any single attack. Isolation ensures that systems with different security levels do not share open access. For example, a guest Wi-Fi network should never have access to internal servers. Secure path enforcement ensures traffic only flows through firewalls, monitoring points, or authorized switches. Redundancy in design helps maintain services even during attacks. The exam often includes questions about how design elements like segmentation support secure architectures. Identity and access management, or IAM, is a central theme of network security. Role-based access control limits what users can do based on their job functions. For example, a help desk technician should not have the same access rights as a network administrator. Multi-factor authentication, requiring a second factor like a smartphone or biometric scan, adds another layer of defense. Federation allows users to log in using a centralized identity from another trusted system, such as through SAML or OAuth. The exam will test your ability to apply IAM principles and recommend access strategies based on business and technical needs. Response and recovery are also critical to security. Even the best defenses can fail, and when they do, it's the organization's response that determines the impact. The goal is containment, stopping the spread of the threat. Eradication follows, removing the cause. Then recovery restores systems to a trusted state. Documentation during this process is essential for audits, communication, and improvement. On the exam, expect to match response steps to incident stages and understand which tasks belong to containment, eradication, and restoration. Continuous improvement is a pillar of any security strategy. After each incident, teams should perform a lessons learned review to assess what worked, what failed, and what can be done better. Policies and procedures should be updated to reflect these findings. Monitoring tools must be reviewed to ensure alerts are configured effectively. As new threats emerge, organizations must remain agile and adjust their defenses. The exam may include questions that ask how to evolve policies after incidents or how to prioritize improvements based on previous vulnerabilities. Network security is not the responsibility of one person or one team. It applies to everyone in the organization. Administrators must apply secure configurations, end users must follow acceptable use policies and report suspicious activity, vendors must comply with security requirements. From procurement to provisioning and from monitoring to maintenance, every role contributes to security. This wide applicability is reflected on the exam, where scenarios may ask how different teams or individuals should respond to security tasks or uphold security policies. In upcoming episodes, we'll explore the core topics that define Domain 4 in greater depth. These include threat models and types of attacks from spoofing and sniffing to phishing and social engineering. We'll also cover network security protocols like IP, SEC, SSL, and secure versions of legacy protocols. Then we'll dive into configuration and access hardening, looking at real-world practices for locking down routers, switches, wireless access points, and firewalls. Each episode will tie directly into the exam objectives while reinforcing concepts that are equally important in day-to-day network administration. To summarize Domain 4, think of it as the union of principles, threats, and defenses. It covers both the why and the how, why security matters and how to apply it. You'll learn about formal controls like policies and access systems, and technical controls like encryption, device hardening, and monitoring tools. These concepts are tested on the exam in both multiple choice and scenario-based formats. Your ability to think like both a defender and an attacker will determine how well you understand this domain. To conclude episode 138, network security is where knowledge meets responsibility. Understanding how to prevent, detect, and respond to threats isn't just about passing the exam. It's about protecting the systems and people who rely on them. Domain 4 prepares you for that challenge. Whether identifying attack vectors or implementing role-based controls, every topic in this domain brings you one step closer to being a competent and confident network security professional. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Network Plus Prepcast, your trusted audio guide to the CompTIA Network Plus certification. This episode was produced by baremetalcyber.com. For more cybersecurity podcasts, books, and resources, visit baremetalcyber.com. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cybersecurity Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.